Welcome back to the case study of Vanitas anime review episode number 3. This will be the third episode of the series, which is called Archiviste, Fangs that lay bare blood. Yes. Now this one, I kind of predicted, and that was correct, that this one did finish up adapting the very first arc of the series, which is called the Parisian Excursion. Yes, which covered the first 5 chapters of manga. Which, yes, this one did finish that up. And it started to adapt chapter 6 of the series, which was part of the Bal Masquerade arc. Yes, which this arc is roughly 7 chapters. Now, for chapter 6, they covered roughly the first 12 pages of this chapter. Yes, the first 12 pages out of how many that was there? 33. Yeah, 12 out of 33. So, yes, next week they'll finish it up. So, this episode starts off, we left off from last week. You have Vanitas and the Hellfire Witch continuing their conflict from last week. And the way it's stopped is that, well, apparently Vanitas basically tells Noe to kidnap the little kid, Luca, which of course Noe does. And that's to get Genie to stop. Like, oh, Genie. Oh, you're so lovely. You're so weak. So he proceeds to walk. Well, basically, like, he managed to stop her. But then, of course, the guy who they were after, the one who turns the werewolf, he ends up biting her in the shoulder. Well, but most like right here. And then he simply cures him. Now he's like, oh, crap, I'm supposed to do this for the Count. And of course, the Count's basically his associates are just happily there, so I guess they'll take their word for it over basically seeing the action in person. So, and of course, well, then he's like, yeah, it's basically Genie all to himself. He proceeds to walk up to her. He's like, oh, you are so beautiful. And then he proceeds to put his hand on the wall, and then he makes out with her. Yes, he kisses her right in front of right in front of Luca, and they're both like, what? Everyone's like shocked the fact he's kissing a woman. And then he's like, oh, that was good. You want to marry me? She's like asking him to marry, asking her to marry him, and gives no answer. And like, be my bride. And like, everyone's Luca gets angry, and look how Genie just takes him away, and he's like, next time I see you, I'll hurt you. He's like, okay, I'm looking forward to it. Oh, that was so funny. Yep, and then of course the Count takes report and doesn't exactly believe every word, but basically he decides to postpone Amelia's execution. Now, I should point out that there's some dialogue rearranged here. They also mentioned that the guy who was the host of the Corrupted Name said he got killed by the Charlatan Parade. This weird black creature. Which, of course, here's the thing. In the manga, it was the Count who said that the guy was dead. In the anime, it was Vanitas himself who said he was dead. Not really sure why they gave that piece of dialogue to him. Probably because they figured it out, obviously. And, of course, Amelia's brought in, and, of course, they sort of interrogate her about the charlatan. Of course, she doesn't remember. Like, the way they describe it, it's like next I remember. So, Noe is actually asked to do it. And apparently his clan has the ability to read people's memories via their blood. Which I'm like, for a vampire, that's probably a very interesting ability for crime solving. So he proceeds to lick her arm, which she gets blushing at, and then he proceeds to bite it. And he looks to her memory, and we see that she's basically kind of like the way it is in 19th century with the like a dress like Little Red Riding Hood. By the way, the wolf is actually an allegory to the story of Little Red Riding Hood. We see a girl wearing a red hood, and of course, the big bad wolf in the story. Very interesting little nod to that story, which I do appreciate that. I mean, like last one, I think it was like a nod to Alice in Wonderland. Now it's basically Little Red Riding Hood. So, they look through the thing, and she apparently is like lost. By the way, she's carrying like a basket full of wine, bread. I think it was just wine and bread and like apples. I think it was in this basket. typical, basically small scale grocery shopping. So it's like there's this very weird parade going on. This is basically the Charlatan parade, and she's scared, and she comes across the head guy in charge of the black creature, where she runs away from the damn thing, and then comes across a street lamp. So to catch her breath, she apparently drops her basket, and then she looks up like, "Oh crap, it's here!" And then it proceeds to bite her on the head, and apparently that's how it corrupted her name. And of course, she's screaming afterwards, and confirms that yep, it was a charlatan who did this. And then right afterwards, a woman barges in. Yes, he says, "Hi, Noe. Hi, I'm Noe's fiance." and of course, I was like, "No, this is of course Demake Dasaid. She's a daughter of one of the local nobles." And he says, "Okay, she mentions this is a childhood friend, and no, we're not betrothed." And of course, the cat does know who she is, and of course, she apologizes to the count for interrupting him, and then she proceeds to take a metal collar with a chain on it, put it around Noe's neck, and he says, "So I'm gonna borrow him for a bit. Bye." And of course, well, the reason why she's borrowing him because she needs to go to a masquerade because she's been invited. And then of course they proceed to go down like this walkway and well go to this bookstore. So it looks like she's hypnotizing the bookstore owner. Opens up a door and it opens up another door. What looks like to be like a 19th century version of a key card, and it opens up the door. And this apparently is the barrier between regular Paris and Astro Paris. And of course, Vanitas decided to follow them right there. And of course, Noe points out though that humans can't cross the barrier. And he's like, yes, they can. If they're touching a vampire. Which of course he was. Because Noe grabbed his hand. That's how he got there. And then he proceeds to walk outside. And he mentions, not the first time I've been here. And they walk outside and like, oh, this is a nice looking place. And he's like, well, not the first time I've been here, but it looks as dreary as ever. And that's where the episode ends. Very fun episode, and I can't wait for next week. Yeah, because we're going to go to this particular very interesting arc, the Ball Masquerade. Yeah, this is an interesting arc where basically, by the way, Amelia actually is not in, like once that first arc wraps up, from what I remember from the manga reading what happens afterwards, she pops up a couple times after this. Oh yeah, and it's also mentioned because they hold off her execution. Amelia becomes a live-in maid, and Noe and Vanitas become basically just sort of sort of agents for the Count. Okay, fine, but this thing. As for Dominique, as far as they can tell, right after this particular arc, I don't think they actually do anything with her after this arc wraps up. No, not that I could think of. Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing. I don't think they really do anything at all. They also mentioned, no, they should point out, there's a little doubt like they mentioned after they actually put in this episode and not say for next week. They mentioned that, Noe mentions that his tutor was actually her grandfather. Which, okay, that's how they kind of know each other. Alright. So basically, like, she's in this arc, but I don't remember her actually taking part in the rest of the series after this, because it's been a while since I read some of the chapters. But I know that Noe and Vanitas do. They participate, like, of course, they're the start of the series. Like, Amelia herself, besides being the first female woman introduced in the series, she does nothing. Like, once the first arc wrapped up, she's basically reduced to a minor recurring character. Dominique, I think they do expand upon her a little bit later on. Yep. But yeah, that's a particular view. Next one's going to be Case Closed, okay? And that'll be it for today, right? See you next video. Bye.